Scared inside, but I swear I'll be right by your side. In darkness I will be your light. I'll be the one to hold you tonight. Won't you listen to me? I want you to see I'm dying to set you free. 'Cause when you open your eyes, you realize that there's so much more to be seen. Just give me some time to blow your mind. I want you to see what I see. I'll set you free from all those lies. You'll be amazed with your new eyes. There'll be no fear inside your mind. A deeper meaning you will find. Won't you listen to me? I want you to see I'm dying to set you free. 'Cause when you open your eyes, you realize that there's so much more to be seen. Just give me some time to blow your mind. I want you to see what I see. hold on tight. I'll take you to a place so bright. Then you will finally understand the beauty of this wonderland. Won't you listen to me? I want you to see I'm dying to set you free. 'Cause when you open your eyes, you realize that there's so much more to be seen. Just give me some time to blow your mind. I want you to see what I see.
Good Friday. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
And it's time to gather. And here we are again. Nice to see some people in the chat. Let me quickly get that off the thing. Cameron, Donald, who's making some coffee, which a little envious about because it's too late for coffee now. We do enough coffee in the day not to feel like we're shortchanged in any way. Sea Lightning, we've had a few exchanges recently over moon observations that he's making in Canada and I'm making here in England. I have found my latest moon videos fascinating in that the obviousness of the analemma or the movement of the moon in the cycle, in the 1 month cycle, was so obvious in these few clips that I got over the last week or so. So Hippie Shake, hello darling, hope all is well for you. And while thinking about people in the Welshish neighbourhood, Martin Leaker had a bit of a nightmare. Well, it wasn't a nightmare, it was a interesting experience going all the way out to Venice and finding that it was really just I don't know, just he had this whole meet-up and it was a big thing, bit of fanfare and what have you, and it was just 2 or 3 guys in a pub or something, and a night on a flea-bitten carpet, something like that.
Well, you know what I'm going to say about that, right?
What are you going to say about that?
Well, what came up? You know, obviously I see this in my own life all the time, or in our lives all the time, but you know, I'm seeing it more and more, or I have such a depth of understanding or connection to this now, where you're born with this blueprint in your bones, and it's got a whole set of, rather than necessarily lessons or experiences, rather goals or possibilities. And I think that's probably pretty similar for all of us, but we have our own path, we have our own journey, we have our own things we've come here to alchemize. And then life, God, source, the universe, whatever you resonate with, curates that. And of course, the more we are aligned with our path, and the more we are on connected to that, or the more we are, less we are in resistance of it, the more that unfolds in a way that's more favorable. Doesn't mean it's not still uncomfortable, and you know, we're having this human experience, which is the whole spectrum. But life is curating all the time, and it's meeting us with where we are and what what still needs to be seen. What still needs to be seen. And that's why the invitation to be curious all the time, like, what is this showing me? And boy, oh boy, is the energy prime at the moment for this. It's really wanting you to look deep. It's really, really wanting you to burn down those foundational structures that are not aligned, that are not of your true nature. And it will continue to curate that for you until you do. And of course, we like to blame this, that, the next thing for this thing happening to me, but really we have to become the magnet. We have to be aligned with the journey. And obviously we've all come here for different reasons, with different medicine, with different experiences. And, you know, but I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to love, really. Returning to that experience of love. You know, that feeling you had when you had the DMT and I had the ayahuasca, that sort of complete and utter whole love.
Yeah, total love. But is that really possible in this incarnation, in this way, that level of love? It was beyond, you know, for me, the love was so great. It was beyond that of my mother's love, you know, the love I had from my mother, who loved me very much.
But maybe it's not about being. You see, we're having a human experience. We're not that.
Yeah.
We're having a human experience, and we've come here to have challenges. We've come here to feel it all.
Yeah.
In this expression of whatever that is, this time.
And things will emerge. Events and, say, troubles, if you like, can emerge. But it's really how you meet them. And where you're at when these things are coming, you know. So,
well, we make them mean a lot of the time.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that, you know, now I've found this sort of inner bliss that I'm never going to lose my cool or never going to feel stressed about a particular thing, because there are things that will cause a person distress. And you know, so I don't know that it's like we want to set ourselves up for such a high standard or a gold standard of like, wow, I'm just in this kind of bubble of that. Because, you know, we encounter people, we encounter things, we have, you know, mishaps in our life or whatever.
I think you're misunderstanding what love in the human experience actually is. Love is fierce. Love is boundaries. Love is it's truth. Love is so truthful. Love is authenticity. Love is about self. Love is acceptance. Love is feeling everything from anger all the way to grief. Love is feeling joy, and it's all. It is absolutely what we make it mean, and even what we make feelings mean.
Yeah. Speaking of feelings, how's Dean and Sarah feeling? Because friends of the channel, fellow activists, Dean HD and Sarah, what does Sarah go by? Sarah had a biking related incident this week, unfortunately, and the long and short of it is, you know, Sarah was somewhat injured and had a long visit to an overnighter at the hospital. But Dean, your foot got crushed, I believe, and that's an interesting, energetically, that's an interesting thing to have happened as well. You know, so, you know, one does wonder about that. I mean, funnily enough, I think it's your left foot. I mentioned this the other week, I think, that I dislocated, and I've never really dislocated or broken anything in my body that I can think of offhand, but playing football was easy. I dislocated my toe such that it was sticking out to the side like this, and I pulled it back into alignment and, you know, hobbled around for a week, or then we were in a lake the other day and we were having a race. The three boys were having a race out of the water, and Zizi wanted to be like him and I against Luke kind of thing. So Luke was getting ahead, and so I chased after him and like rugby tackled him in the water. And as I launched in the rugby tackle, so I put a significant amount of pressure onto that small toe, causing it and the one next to it somehow to become more swollen and more like unhappy. So obviously it's a minor.
Yeah, Dean's probably listening to you you're talking about your baby toe.
He had to take morphine or something to kind of crush all the bones.
Dean has done some serious damage to his left foot.
So you are in our thoughts, both of you, and sorry for that.
I have to say this. I'm not going to go into detail what it means, but I have to say this, that if you ever have an injury or you have some part of your body that, and some of you might have looked into this or not, there's something called German New Medicine, and it's fascinating.
German New Medicine.
It's shortened often for GNM. And if you go first understand what that is, it's the understanding is that we have conflict. When we have an experience, it leaves a conflict in our body, and it's about the brain and how the brain stores it, and it's often
discovered by a very healthy German doctor who, after a trauma, when his son died suddenly at a young age in his 20s, he developed cancer, and then he started looking back at his cancer patients and discovered that there were links to trauma events in the run-up to cancer diagnosis. And
essentially the cancer is trying to heal the conflict, but it can't heal the conflict unless you heal the original conflict. and I mean, they talk about this in Chinese medicine, in Chinese medicine too.
Chinese old medicine.
So it's not necessarily a new concept. It's just one that he obviously wrote a whole lot on and called it German New Medicine, and it's really fascinating. But if you ever type in the injury or the area in your body that is is going through something, then it's just really fascinating what comes up, and that's from like Dave's little toe to
all the way
into sore wrist, cancer.
Yeah.
There's a lot online. If anybody's interested, there's a lot online. I think there's somebody called, I can't think of her name. Anyway, she does a couple of interviews on Alex Zeck's Way Forward. That she talks a lot about it. So if you're interested.
Well, there you go. And so you're in our thoughts, guys. And
speedy recovery. But obviously, the universe wants you to slow down and sit on your bed and just
look into what the left foot means in German New Medicine. So that evening song was very poignant, and it was pointed out by some of the folks listening. Let me remind you to give us the thumbs up if you haven't already done that. It does help to push this out to a wider audience.
And Alex Michael for his
always
his stuff, and I know that I think he's pretty much now channeling all his music through his Patreon. Am I correct? When it says members only on YouTube, is that also a different stream?
Yeah, I don't know if that's Patreon.
Anyway, it's obviously now, and understandably so. We're all out there trying to have an energy exchange. In fact, it's the laws of nature for there to be an energy exchange.
Yeah. And thanks always to those who have found a way to exchange energy with us. We do appreciate it. There is the usual PayPal, Patreon, blah, 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 all that. And of course, Hippie Shake is often in the channel to promote that.
Can I just say something? Go back to the music. Obviously,
please do.
I know that Alex Michael is talking about, when he's singing about, trying to talk to someone you care about what you know that's a truth. But for me, if you listen to the words and you then put that as life, what is life trying to teach you?
Life is a teacher. The experiences we have are a teacher. I was talking to a guy earlier this week, and it's so powerful to me that, you know, these things that are happening are here to teach us things, and the way they make you feel, the energy that comes up, whatever that energy is, fight, flight, freeze or fawn, it is teaching you something, and you should learn from that, because wherever you are, you know, however you're experiencing this life, surely your most complete version is one who is, you know, at a state of balance and harmony and ease with stuff, rather than, like I use the example of the guy who's driving a car, really frantic on the edge of his seat, versus the guy who's kind of not letting things rile them. Actually, we had a driving experience yesterday, day before, where we went for a few miles, maybe 6, 7, 8 miles. We were going through quite a long series of periods of where there'd be like a half a mile, 3/4 mile stretch, and then there'd be a traffic circle, and there'd be another half mile, 1/4 mile, half mile, whatever, and then another traffic circle. And we were in fairly heavy traffic at that time. And so instead of like racing right up to the car, like that's, you know, next in front of me, I was kind of holding back 100 meters or so that I could just like cruise along at an even speed, and then not really have to tap my brakes much at all in order to kind of meet the traffic as it flows through the next intersection, and then, you know, ease off a little bit and so on. And I'm just like really chilled, enjoying that, and I'm looking at my fuel gauge, my fuel consumption thing, which is something I like to do. And it's really reading good, you know, it's like up at 50 something miles per gallon, which for my car is really good. So I'm feeling chuffed about that, and I'm thinking the lady in the car behind me is probably also noticing that her fuel consumption her fuel consumption is really good, you know. And but then when the opportunity came, like after some miles of this, the opportunity came for her to go left and me to go right, she hooted at me. I realized that she was pissed off with my
she was projecting.
easy style of driving, you know.
She'd made up a whole lot of.
But we never got to these traffic circles or intersections or whatever with gaps between me and the car in front. You know, I was timing it exquisitely, and I was meeting the traffic, I thought, perfectly. And driving, and of course, if you believe in climate change, you should believe that that's really good for the environment. I'm only saying that because today I had to put out about 4 or 5 different containers at this place we're staying at, of different, you know, recycling crap. And the guy said to me, with this pile of cardboard boxes here, please just stack them in a way like next to them so that they take them. They didn't take them. Why didn't they take them today? Well, they weren't in the box that they're meant to be in. It's cardboard. You can see it's just a pile. No, it's not in the right box. Can't take it. Society is very interesting. And you know, I was thinking about how I want to go back to Alex Michael's lyrics, because they are powerful. But I'm just on a little bit of a kind of sidebar here. I was thinking about how it is in local government, you know, because I worked in local government for at least 15 years, give or take. I encountered the civil servant. I encountered the people that populate these things, up to director and chief executive level and so on. I encountered these people, and almost to a man or a woman, or anyway, there's a lot of the other mixtures. There is this kind of desire in the management realm, if you get into the management realm, to kind of like be the one who's going to innovate the newest thing. So if, you know, the government has the central office diktat about climate change, they will be seeding local authorities. They will give them upfront money. They will say, well, if you can get this thing running, we will give you an extra $500,000, we will give you X or Y or whatever, as like a bonus to get this thing kind of up off the ground. And people are falling over themselves to kind of come up with the most draconian, most kind of like, shut the door or make sure that we don't lose this or gain that, or we're collecting a higher percentage of plastic than the people next door. All of that kind of thing. It's like that teacher's pet in class when you were 10 years old, just, annoyingly, going around and picking up the teacher's pencil shavings. It's like, okay, so that's why it is that these organizations are falling over themselves to be, get the little noddy badge, the investors in people, the, leaders council of the world. Okay, rant over.
Yeah, they've cleverly, as with everything, made people feel shame about, the people on the ground, their shame for, destroying the earth. And so, now people will happily do what they're told in that respect because they don't want to be seen.
Yeah, but
it's a bit like during COVID, right? Where people did all the things because you didn't want to be seen to be not, because how shameful was that? Because they made you feel shameful. And of course, we heard many stories of people who were dobbing each other in for not doing the right thing.
Yeah. Not a mouth uncovered. You can imagine that slogan in some local council government office here. Not a mouth uncovered. We've got 1,000, breath days without a mask uncovered, a face uncovered. Yeah, that kind of stuff is how this gets all so carried away.
It's through the messaging and playing on people's already belief in themselves, which will go back to the lyrics. What is life? Life is mirroring back all the time, and it wants, I was having a conversation the other day, it wants actually things to work out for us.
No, I was in such a good headspace when I was driving, in that way. I was so chilled and blah,
but
blah.
What are you making that woman...
And so I was making that woman behind me go, wow, this guy's a smooth driver. Look how he's like just catching up to the traffic just in time, and he like gliding through like a fish through water.
But compassionate, you can see why she wasn't, because she probably isn't, and
that's the other part of the equation, isn't it? It's one thing to kind of be, well, I've just been Buddhist zenning myself in a cave for 6 years, but it's like now some guy's giving you the bird, for no good reason, or even if you maybe made it like a, oh, sorry, I didn't quite see you there. They're like, oh, you complete total. And it's like, okay, now how do you react? How do you react now? And it's that's
where you give something a meaning, right? Yeah. Because now that person has said they're disappointed.
So how much is that lady's kind of like? I could tell she was pissed off.
Disappointed.
How much? Yeah.
Yeah, but let's talk about that. How programmed are we from very young to not have someone disappointed? Because what did it mean if someone was disappointing us as a child?
Well, there were certain ramifications.
Shaming. It meant punishment. I mean, that happened at home for sure, because shaming is a form of punishment that has been used for many, 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 many generations. And still continues. And then of course we get that by the bucket loads at school, we get that by the bucket loads in religion, we get that by the bucket loads in society. So it's in our cells, not to disappoint, to be pleasing. Whatever way you end up doing that, whether you're just quiet, whether you just are trying all the time to make sure everybody's happy, or when someone isn't, do you either get angry and defensive, or do you get upset, or go into your shell? There's different ways that we will address that. Do we like shout back and make that person wrong? Because when we have conscious awareness, and again, this is never about perfection. It's never about it being like perfectly, I've got to be perfect in this, but what came back at you was, oh, you disappointed me. Now she's already triggered. Now she's going at you. You can then be like, oh, you look at you.
So I've
Instead
actually,
of compassionately, I can see you're disappointed.
I've taken her energy on. If I do that, I've taken her energy on, and
You've made it mean something.
she's had a bad day, or she's really feeling like that extra few seconds I might have cost her, if I did any at all, was going to be life changing. But as we were talking about, I'm thinking about other times where I have not held myself in, stood my ground and stood my ground in a way that was non-confrontational. I think that's.
Well, this is what I mean when I say loving. You see, the word love has really been messed with, because love is just that my energy centers are open, right? My energy centers, my heart is open, because actually our heart is a big piece of our technology. The moment we shut it down and close it, then we're actually affecting ourselves and obviously the collective too. But love is when you can have your heart open and be compassionate to that person. Perhaps something's going on for them, right? You don't have to like it necessarily, but we always have it. Like you said earlier, we all have a choice on how we experience something. And most of the time, when we're triggered by something, it's of the past. It's not actually conscious. We're not actually choosing. We're already in something without any choice, because you always get to choose. And I think that's happening at the moment energetically. It's intense at the moment. That it's like things are coming all the time. And can we sit with that and be curious, be with that part of us that perhaps is feeling something or wants to project something or blame someone. Now, this is not saying that someone else isn't responsible for themselves too, and I only have control over me. I don't even like the word control, but I only have the ability to be with what's there for me, and therefore then choose how to respond to it. And sometimes maybe it's not even responding at all. Maybe it's just using the opportunity to observe it. It just depends on the situation. But in that situation with that lady, to just, smile and think, wow, something must be going on for you. You to feel like that was necessary, and not in a judgy way, in a way that's just like, we take things personally. I think that's what it is, and it's because something's being triggered in us. And for me, all relationships, whether it be the lady that you're driving with on the road, your partner, your business partner, the lady at the shop, all these relationships are mirror. It is that we're here helping each other, and it's like there are invitations all the time to see it. And again, it's not this like perfect art. We're all untangling a whole lot of stuff from the past, whether that be this lifetime or before.
Yeah. Hi, JP. They're talking about alcohol. You subscribe to John Smith. Is that John Smith Globe Live? Because I've been trying to write to him recently, like email and stuff. I don't know where he's at.
Yeah, we kind of just lost contact with him, haven't we?
Yeah. Okay, so these guys are talking about like riding each other or riding bikes. That's it. Yeah. So sea lightning. So I mean, I don't know. I know not everybody watches some of these other videos I've been putting out on the moon. I only say that because it doesn't have quite the same view count as some of this, and certainly not the activism. By the way, I'll be in the street tomorrow doing activism. Tomorrow being Saturday, obviously. But so, when I've been saying for a while that we see the moon sure. At full moon, we seem to see the moon super low in the sky, the equivalent of where we would see the sun in the winter, the European winter. And then as it waxes, so it seems to rise to about 85 degrees at the new moon, and then it does this again, or it appears to, because of course we can't see it. It's hard to see in those 2 or 3 days after the new moon, but it seems to be then returning. So it's doing this analemma, which I find fascinating that it's doing that. And what I've been saying, why that's also interesting at this time with that TFE business, is that if it's doing a monthly analemma, then it should be seen every month for 24 hours in the Antarctic. But no one's offered that. No one's offered to say, oh, well, we'll show you the 24-hour moon as well. So I'm looking to see whether there's any evidence to support that there could be a 24-hour moon, but certainly if it's doing the analemma and it's in the same placements as the sun, i.e. the winter placement and the summer placement, then it's okay. For the summer place, where it's at new moon, then no one can see it, so you wouldn't get a 24-hour view of it anywhere. But I think there's something to that. So just make your own observations and keep a note of that. So I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking at the same time, I don't know whether that in the European winter, when the sun is inverted, it's no longer up high, it's down low, whether we would see an inversion of the moon cycle so that you would get the full moon up high as opposed to down low. I hope I haven't lost you with that. But anyways, just some food for thought. And then so Sea Lightning was making, and other guys who in Auckland, I think, in New Zealand, were saying they're seeing the sunrise for an hour and a half before the sun is set in England, which if you take a globular, model and try and light that up and try and recreate that, you can't. About an hour and a half. And so the moon being, we've seen this before, but it's kind of fascinating and to continue looking at these things. The moon that I see this morning up until about 10 o'clock, depending on the amount of cloud cover, is already visible in the night sky in Canada, which, it's kind of weird, because obviously someone looking at a waning half moon would see black and white, whereas I'm seeing blue and white. And I know, obviously, they can say anything to say, well, this is because of this. Because of gravity, due to gravity. Always due to, it falls due to gravity. No, it falls because it got lifted up. It's not hard. It really isn't rocket science. So, that's all just firecrackers. Although I have seen some footage recently of something scraping, and it's not the first time. There have been, over the years, some footages of what appears to be things scraping across the sky, corresponding to rocket launches. So, are they trying to crack that highest, hardest ceiling? Or is there something actually else going up in the sky, something else happening up there, and they're using the rockets as a decoy to say, okay, let's fire this up, and then at the same time as we know this event is going to occur in the sky, and then at least those people who see it can write it off as another Elon Musk failure. Now that's a whole nother ball of wax, isn't it? Elon Musk and the Donald Trump theater, that stuff. I only have to see one word or 3 words, and I'm like, okay, because I know where the story's at the moment, I don't, listen to any content. Well, to say I listen to none that includes any words that include Musk and Trump, that would be not true. But, I'm not following the soap opera. I think I have a sense of where the soap opera is taking people. And it's divide and rule, divide and conquer for the new old world order. So that's some of my thoughts on that. But yeah, so sea lightning, we were talking about trying to do a joined up observation at the same moment in time. The clock would look different in different places. Obviously, we all understand that. But in the very same moment now, we take a shot and an angle on these things. And obviously, I'm using a mobile phone, so that's not a great thing. But the point really is we're seeing it, how are we both able to see that and then see these very different lighting systems. And then people say, no, it's not unique to you. Of course it's unique to you. I'm more and more sure of that, more and more sure that what they did was because of the unique to you relationship the lighting system has, is they were able to create this far off thing that everybody is seeing simultaneously, rather than a very close and personal thing that only those that are nearby might see a similar facsimile of. So how the lights work in the sky is yet to be clarified, and the anomalies that we find should not be like, oh, well, we're just going to gerund the whole thing,
Well, is it okay though for it to there just to be possibilities rather than you have to know 100% that it's
Yeah,
that it's
course.
there is an element of mystery there.
Must be.
And actually that brings me to the point, because Dave was listening to the debate. You didn't listen
Woodson and Geron,
you didn't listen to all of it, did
no,
you?
a fair bit, but not all of it, no.
And I was listening a little bit. I haven't got the time or the inclination to listen to all of it. And from my perspective, from a trauma perspective, and if you'll just bear with me for a minute while I explain this, is the mind is almost like it's like our memory box or our memory computer, but it's also, its job is mechanical. Its job is to basically be like the scanning, looking for things that resemble anything that it's got in the storage bank, so that it can then go, oh, well, that situation means that, so therefore this is the action I'm going to take. All of this already from the past. And so it bases the now, the present, and even worrying about the future on the past until we alchemize that and bring that to completion. And so the mind relies on certainty to feel safe. That is a trauma response. If I know, then everything will be okay. If I know, then I can control the outcome. If I know, then I know what's going to happen next. The knowing. And so part of the mechanism is to know, and it bases all its knowing on everything that's happened from the past, even 10 seconds ago. So it's just kind of, and that most especially happens from 0 to 7. 0 to 7, literally a child is not making any cognitive decisions or making sense of it. It's just like a sponge. It's just taking every experience in it and storing it in the mind's filing cabinet. And then it knows what everything means. Everything that a baby learns from 0 to 7 is what it's taught in its environment and its experiences around it. So that's what we know, which is why we know that the globe is such a strong knowing, because it is, well, we're all shown, taught, believe, but entangled in this is this sense of, if I know something as a mechanism, if I know something, then I'm safe. And so it wants certainty, it wants a box. It wants to know that I'm in this box and that's where I'm safe. And so what I witnessed when I was listening to that was the reasoning for the change of position, I'm trying to be diplomatic here, the change of position was that on this one knowing, the globe, and then the supposed other knowing. Now, it's my understanding that most people in flat earth, but certainly in truth areas, can say what something isn't, but certainly in flat earth, you can't necessarily say what something is for sure. There can be a whole lot of theories, and I think what happened is when people move from globe to flat earth, they're attached to another knowing.
Welded to it.
So whether that be a map or a way that it works or whatever it is, and it has to be this because it's another box, it's another knowing, it's another certainty, which is why you always be people who stand by the globe say, okay, well, if it's not there, then tell me what it is, because the mind needs another knowing. It needs another box, it needs another certainty, because that's the only way it's
Don't
safe.
take the child's toy without replacing it.
The interesting thing, though, is that as spiritual beings, or in this realm that we're in, actually, it's in the void or the liminal space of not knowing and mystery where possibility lives. And where possibility lives is where the possibility of us having things that we can't even imagine happen lives. But the moment you put yourself in one of those boxes, that's it. That's your limitation, which is why I say, for me, why does it matter about the globe? Because the globe limits you. That's it. That's your rock. Once it's done, once climate change, whatever happens, the asteroid hits you, then you're done. And, we're trying to get to Mars, but that's not really working. It's done. Whereas I think what Flat Earth gives us is this possibility that is it possible that there's more land? Is it possible that it's this? So we can theorize about the possibilities, and some of them are quite strong. And obviously there are some, like a tree's a tree, and so the water is always level. There are some certainties, but how things work, well, we don't know. And so for me, what I saw is actually what happened was when people went from globe to flat earth, they went from certainty to certainty.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when they went and did this experiment, what they saw
Observation.
couldn't match a certain certainty. But then that meant there were no other possibilities.
Yeah, that's a weird thing, that in all these years, that those folks who were so welded to it can only work with a single light going around a circle model. That's the only way, a physical single little lamp going around my athletics track, that I can work out. And if it's not that, then it means that everything else is back to I have to jump back to the other certainty. I have to go back to the other model.
No, and
Whereas it was me. I have cheated on map systems and models and ways of how it might work, but with absolute clarity that the globe does not, and the heliocentric model itself does not present sufficient credible, demonstrable, measurable evidence to support the hypothesis. And that remains true no matter if there's 10 lights down in Antarctica. It's like constant, it's like light the whole day and it doesn't even move. It appears not to move. Well, it doesn't matter about any of that, because the globe itself cannot be verified. The spinning, the curving water, come on. There's just so much, and we know that I keep seeing this from the globe defenders, like you're not high enough to see curvature in the aeroplane picture, in the hot air balloon picture, or in the weather balloon picture. You're not high enough. But I'm standing on the beach, and at 3 miles the ship has gone over the curve. And I can never see it that way, but I can see it, lose 20, 30, 40 meter ship in just 3 miles. And then if I go up, oh, I can still see that ship, and he appears to still be going straight. He's going to go over in a little while longer. It's a test of your own self-development not to want to call people who having heard that evidence and being offered, like, go and measure it, go and test it yourself. Not trust me, not go to NASA and believe what they tell you on TV, but go and measure it for yourself. Go and make a sincere observation and try and
But
debunk.
also allow yourself not to know.
But no, that's the okay. So, but that's the part about the globe. You can know, and what Whitsitt was doing the other day is he's a really smart guy, as you know, and really learned on so many elements of how the globe works and how the flat Earth might work or could work. However, he was getting drawn into Jaren's tactic of, which is what they do on the street with me, is to pull me into the weeds about the flat Earth model. And it's like, let's not need to be having another model that we're so certain about. We cannot be certain about how the winds work, how tides are, exactly how they're. We have theories about.
But that's what I mean about be okay with not knowing.
Yeah.
You can sit and theorize, and some of them can feel really aligned. But there has to be this possibility. And be okay with that. I think that's the point. Is be okay with that. I'll take it down to a really small example. You get a phone call from someone you weren't expecting, and they leave a message, and they just say, "I need to speak to you." And what story comes up for you around that person? Say it's a person from your past, and that story will be one possibility, and it's probably very old. That person is going to be disappointed in me. That person's going to whatever the story is you make up around it, and we don't allow there to be all of the possibilities that person's calling us. Or you are calling up someone to ask them to borrow something, and you're already deciding that they're not going to be able to afford it, they're going to say no, and not allowing the possibility that there could be 100 ways this could work out. I can give many examples. The place that I am at is the place where I sit in possibility. Now, the interesting thing about possibility is it's very threatening for the mind. Extremely threatening. Uncertainty, our mind does not like to be there, because it wants to base everything on what's already happened. So when you say, I'm going to be in this liminal space, I'm going to be in this void of not knowing, and by the way, I think we're very much in that time at the moment, where we're in the void, but we're like grabbing onto all the old things that we know, ways of being and beliefs and whatever, and they're coming at us like these to let go. But to let go, you have to let go and not know the new thing. So it's a bit like, if you're letting go of the globe and then not knowing actually exactly how it works, that's incredibly threatening for the mind.
Yeah, and the ego.
So that's what I observed when I was listening to the debate, was actually, and I've said this to you before, when you speak to people who are on the globe, is that they almost always say, okay, prove to me, or show me what it is then, because they have to have one and move to the other. We need a new box. If I'm not in this box, I need another box. At the moment you put that in a box, you're limited again.
Well, someone who's been limited is a character called Ling Funku Shaolin, who's talking all sorts of crap. So you're blocked. Bye. Yeah, nice to see you, Kathy. Kentucky is being represented. And post anything. Think spiritual, not physical. Yeah, I think that our world is that. It's obviously it's a spiritual realm. But we are
experiencing it in a material
way, and we have no.
But that's why
connection to that at the moment.
No, we're hanging on to the material side, and can you be everything and nothing? And so really, that tension of holding that in the middle is not something that we know how to do, because we have really been suppressed and really limited, and believe that we are just these. And I know most of you will say intellectually I'm not, but it's deep. It's a deep untangling that we're all going through. Yeah. And we are all going through it. Some not realizing it, but
and I think some people could. When I hear some of this language, I do think critically on, the New Age kind of. Some of the New Age talk, because the New Age, just like religion, has got value, but it's like missteered for obvious reasons, and so because it is missteered, I think that we are invited to raise ourselves against that misdirection. I think we are, because we could also say, given what we know, that we're these spiritual beings, and hey ho, we live, we die, we go back to the old Akashic or whatever, and we're that's so it doesn't really matter. But I feel like that's a little bit like how I felt when I was an atheist, right? But nothing here matters, And I know I've said that after the DMT, that nothing here matters, but I think that if someone is deceiving you, I've said this many times, and someone is deceiving you, there's a reason why. And
well, you've come to experience this human experience. I think feeling the whole spectrum of feelings and experiencing the whole spectrum of things is, that's different for everyone. But I think that's what it is. I think I actually heard someone talking about this again today, about the spiritual bypassing, when we say, it just needs to be all love and light, and I'm certainly not saying that when I say it's about returning to love, because I see love in a very, very different way now. But also it's about trusting that this experience that we're having is meant. It's we've come here, we've agreed to come here to have this experience, and all of it, and I genuinely believe that even the most challenging moments are being curated for us to help us to alchemize. But we mustn't forget, the enjoyment of the simple things, like seeing your child or family member smile, or learn something, or be curious, or experiencing food, whatever that food is that you enjoy. That's part of this experience, to not lose that.
Absolutely. Well, we were playing, and Zizi and I were playing a little Monopoly today, and I was really enjoying his enjoyment of putting his money into different little piles, and paying his £26 for landing on Y Street or whatever. But I have to say, we're like, oh, is this a new set? And then we open it up, and inside, one of the characters, if you've ever played Monopoly, you'll know that the classic characters were like the top hat, the iron, the ship, the car, the dog, and one other. And now this set has got a dinosaur in it. It's got a dinosaur in it.
What did Zizi do when he saw it?
Well, he just kind of looked at that. But he actually went for the ship. And he said, I'm going for the ship because it has the most amount of detail. I thought that was an interesting choice. You know, the dinosaur thing, I think I said this a few months ago, but the dinosaur thing for me in the 70s as a school kid, it was like, it was still like, there's this thing about the dinosaurs, but it's a little bit out there, you know?
I had never heard of a dinosaur until it really became prominent when Jurassic Park came out.
Yeah.
Before that, never.
You know, yeah, but there was, you know, there was like, I mean, obviously if you were in like deep scientific like study,
Yeah,
you
but
know,
the average
you know
person-
that we found prehistoric stuff and we got these 1800s displays from the likes of Darwin's people.
I mean, that could have possibly been that in South Africa, you generally weren't, our museums didn't carry prehistoric.
Well, they weren't importing their, you know, fiberglass bones from China at that point.
My schooling indoctrination when it came to museums was going to see the voortrekkers.
Right.
I was going to see how the
People they call them voortrekkers because they had the ox wagon, and they used the ox wagon to travel inland into Africa, into southern Africa. This is what, 1700s or 1600s, 1650s, something like that. Post flood, I think. You know, they're going back into this land where I think, you know, it was decimated. There were no people, maybe buildings. I think there were buildings. Because, you know, that area in the 1600s, with these horse and wagons and what have you, and they built this castle that is a star fort that you couldn't build today. You know, it'd be
the
like
castle
hardwood.
and Mount Nelson, which
yeah.
is right on the mountain, and it's these pillars that, oh my goodness me,
Yeah, they're
just,
Greco-Roman
yeah.
of, you know, of a high order. You know, and these are people in ox wagons. You know, the basics of life.
And Dave and I both, our British heritage in South Africa was from these 1820 settlers that
These were later,
that,
so those,
that came
the original
later.
voortrekker,
But
they
we
were Dutch.
think that was post some sort of an event that they were then brought to South Africa on a boat.
Well, and I mean, it's funny, isn't it? It's like a repopulation agenda. It's like a repopulation agenda, you know, like they've got it going on here with all these little red dinghies coming in from Africa, well, via France. You know, but so, you know, England was doing, the empire was doing that, sending Portuguese, Spanish, French to all these African places.
And South American.
And South American places. We were, you know, theorizing, because that's okay to theorize, as long as you don't get sweaty over your theory and say that no one can have an alternate theory to the one that you've got. Although water is at rest level, parallel to any other liquid that is at rest. It's so straightforward. Anyway, where was I headed with that?
Repopulation.
Yeah. So the Europeans do all of this. Oh yeah. So imagine a scenario, right? If you'll just run with me for a minute or two. Imagine a scenario where the cataclysmic events occur in, say,
Carries on going there.
the Europeans are for some reason brought forward, like they are shipped in, whether it's from outer lands or whatever, they are shipped in, they are given schooling, technology, advantages, trained, and then sent out as missionaries to ensnare the other populations that were re-emerging after 100 years of post-flood kind of like decimation. You know, it requires for there to have been high civilization. Civilization drops off completely, and people are reduced to hand painting in caves, and making fire in caves, and taking animal skins again for clothing. And they're doing that, and that's what we encounter when we go to Africa in the 16 and 1700s. and South America too, and in North America too, by the way, because again, North America is replete with unbelievable buildings, you know, also the mud flooded type, underground, basement floors and all that sort of hoo-ha. So there was civilization of a high order there, and yes, California was probably an island as well and all that. And then the change, and then the survivors are living in teepees. And I'm not saying they're the ones but they're not the ones who build Machu Picchu and those incredible stone structures. Those were from before. I don't know whether it's a previous epoch, but anyway. It's the people in the Greco-Roman buildings who were here before us, and they wipe out. But somehow, you know why I'm pausing, because I've also got this like other little narrative theory about China and how the Chinese have a 5,000-year-old story, and they are possibly the most subjugated of people, and maybe it starts there. Anyway, don't want to get too lost in the weeds of the backstories, but the front story is the Europeans get upskilled, turned into good servants, suit and ties, and sadists. And then off they go into the wilds of Africa and the rest of the world and rape and pillage their way into getting civilization going, until such a time people are going, okay, damn, we'll join your club, we'll have an army, we'll do government in the way that you say, blah, blah, blah. Oh, actually, because it looks good, you know, look at all these whiteys turning up in their suit and tie and sadism. We want some of that. That's what I think has happened, you know. And people from one group will look at another and say, you guys are, it's like, but you, because we don't realize that, certainly in that theory, that the Europeans were enslaved first. Just like when we look at what's going on in Israel, Palestine, and so on, and we feel resentment towards those supporting what clearly seems to be genocide and you know, stealing of people's land, we blame the Jew, not realizing, and of course he might well be the perpetrator, just like the white policeman or the white government official or the white whoever was treating a black person in the apartheid in a particular way. They are doing it based on a program that's running in them, you know. And so is to think that the Jews are somehow, you know, so exceptional that they cannot be programmed and they are not the product of programming, that would be a mistake to believe that. They are, and they were vaccinated as hard as any other group, you know, and they, for their part, are just guilty of believing their propaganda, and perhaps their propaganda has been rammed up to them harder than others.
A survival mechanism is for me to believe I'm superior, because if I'm superior, then I'm better than you. Therefore, I am, you know, I am protected. I am, you know, that's the thing, right? I need to feel like I'm better or I'm right. I'm righteous, because then I'm not wrong. I don't want to be in the wrong group, because we know what that means, right? If you're wrong, then you're a sinner, then you're you know, you're rejected by God, or whoever you deem as your savior. And it makes me think of the triangle, right? The victim, the perpetrator, and the savior. And that's
we sort of move between those different stations. And I think that's what we show with sort of kind of saying with from moving from a heliocentric globe that we were so certain about to a flat earth that Samuel Rowbotham and what's his name, Eric Dubay and Mark Sargent and all of that told us about back in the day. You know, we became certain about that, and it's that need for certainty and surety, and because I now know, it gives me a sort of a leg up over others and so on.
I mean, when this all sort of first kicked off, I remember saying to Dave Weiss that actually for me it's exciting because it opens the door for more discussions and more possibilities, and and I think that's really important, whether that be on your own personal journey or collectively, that you want to be in the void of possibility. You want to be in the void of not knowing, really, because you want to be in, you want to trust that there is something bigger, greater, higher that is unfolding here, and allow that, instead of like fixing it, to be one outcome. Which is why when you hear people who are doom casting, it's like, well, you're that's the possibility that you're saying is the only one, whereas that's not the case at all.
Well, it makes you wonder about, because I think there is an element, there's definitely an element of these guys are getting great press for flat Earth. And I have actually wondered to myself, I wonder if these guys, Jaron and others, have actually got an agreement with their close mates in flat Earth. They're going to go, listen, we're going to go rogue for 12 months.
That's a possibility.
Yeah, we're going to go rogue for 12 months, and it's going to piss everybody off, and it's going to cost me all my friends, and people are going to call me names, blah, blah, blah. But it's going to get a lot of globies on my, on my radar. And then I'll flip it back on them, and go, damn, I forgot about level water. It's right in front of me the whole time. I'm lying in my bath, and I'm going, this water's level. Shit, imagine if this bath was 100 miles long. Do you think it's going to start curving then? Dush, dush, dush. Wake up, McFly. No, it makes me think about Trump, actually, because obviously he is like that character Biff from the Back to the 80s, Back to the Future. And this thing about a Mr. J. Epstein, who had a list. There was a list that they were talking about, and all the MAGA guys. I think I might have mentioned it a bit last week, but all the MAGA guys, a lot of people who were backing Trump were backing him because he was going to expose the Epstein stuff. I think even, it would have been a Q thing and blah, blah. He was going to expose Epstein stuff. And then this week he comes out and says, there's no Epstein stuff. And why are you just even talking about this creep anymore? That's so lame. We've got much more important. I showed the video, didn't I? We've got much more important things to be getting on with. Well, I did show it last week, but I think it's rumbled on to become now like, for the Democrats, the opposite party in America to Trump's. Oh, he's not part of the system. He's a Republican. Although once was a Democrat, so he swings both ways. Although that's a sight. Anyway, Trump has really brought more attention to perhaps the Jeffrey Epstein thing than there was before. Because us guys who are sort of seeking truth and what have you, we're aware of all the dreadful stories. And there was a court case. Jeffrey Epstein had to pay out $250 million to 250 women. I think the payout was $290 million because I assume $40 million to the lawyers. But I assume it was $1 million. There were 250 ladies who said, this is what happened. I can prove it, or blah, 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 blah. I know this, I can evidence this, I can show this. And in court, they won nearly over $250 million. And there were other huge, huge payments being made in respect to stuff that he'd gotten up to. So there was all sorts of mischief, and there's all sorts of stuff. And Trump himself said, there's a list, and we're going to bring them down. Actually, people have got a short memory because, so do I. But I remember, the first Trump theater, 2016, I was already staunchly flat Earth, so I knew all of this was theater. But in the run-up to that, he was going to jail Hillary Clinton on his first day in office. And people go, he didn't do that, and blah, blah, blah. But, again, this Epstein thing. Now, what with Musk starting up his own party and so on, and him leaving MAGA, it's creating all of this division, all of this kind of theater. But why bringing attention to it? Because that's really what it's
Yeah,
happening.
my theory
I'm sure
is
there's sorted stuff in
theory,
the cupboard.
Well, my theory is that you know, if you choose to observe it
Yeah.
and see that there is this darkness there, and in a way he's not really hiding it. You know, he's kind of showing it, and you know, the opportunity for people to, for me personally, to stop handing their power over to this outside savior, and you know what that means in terms of how the world looks going forward. I don't know. I do know that the current energy that we're in is wanting the old to die, and that's in us individually too, the old to die, and so that we can rebirth something new. And that's the void as well. The possibility of what that could be is yet remains to be seen. So I think that we have to, for people to have the opportunity to wake up and see it, it has to fester and and be shown. So that's why I think it's happening. But don't spend too much time looking at it either, because there is life to live, and our own work to do. I think, again, I go back to the world as a mirror, and whatever's going on there is more than likely showing something within.
Indeed. I'm just looking at within the comment section, and Terret says something about wanting to look into the jet fuel hoax. It's a mixed one, that one actually. You know, Nathan, who's a friend and of the channel, he was a international airline pilot and wouldn't take the needle for the job. No jab, no job. So
We also met that guy when we were in Norwich. I've forgotten what his name is. Tony, also Tony.
Oh, yeah.
And he was also a pilot, and he was also not.
He wasn't buying the jet fuel
No.
hoax either. However, Kathy Broughton is a former aircraft mechanic. So that's an impressive CV there, Kathy. For a lady, I mean, it's an unusual thing. But perhaps you could talk about that sometime. It's a little harder in the thing. I mean, I don't have a dog in the race. For me, wouldn't surprise me. I like the idea that actually the technology they're using now is creating anti-gravitic, bee-like vibrations that are actually creating some of the lift. I accept how, I've made paper aeroplanes, and I've looked at aerofoils, and I understand how lift and the vacuum and the low pressure and high pressure and so on. You don't have to be that smart to work out how a plane works, right? Oftentimes people in these careers go, "Oh, you're not one of us," or I had a guy ask me the other day. I could tell, where was I? Maybe in one of the university places. Maybe it was Oxford. Guy asked me, like, what's your qualification? It's not the first time.
That used to happen a lot.
So I didn't sit in a overpriced class, and get told what to study. Therefore, I'm not smart enough to research it myself. However, when it comes to the aircraft thing, of course, I've got to keep an open mind, because there's things because it makes no sense that there's that much weight. And yes, I used to believe in, the planes have pumps to move the liquid around, so that when it does this, they can counterbalance some of that weight and it doesn't all slosh. And inside of the wings, they've got all of these sort of dampers and bladder sections, so that the fluid doesn't just gush as fluid would down to the lowest possible point. So there are things that I still, have questions about, and yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they only need a few thousand liters, not tons and tons, to run whatever they need to run to create the pressure system. But it doesn't matter to me that much that I would want to argue with someone over it, because I can't say.
I mean,
However,
it would be an interesting one to get some people who are sort of closer to that experience to come and give their perspectives on it. So it is something that, you could look at. But yeah, I mean, how important is it to know that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's that, and wind obviously has there are winds up above, and that can obviously affect the speed of travel. Hi Sven, nice to see you, mate. I'm kind of hoping to visit Bournemouth actually at the end of the month. They've got it's Ian's thing, isn't it really? But the Flat Earth Social in Bournemouth.
Okay.
So I mentioned it to Martin Mika. I think it's the 28th or 29th. It's the last Tuesday of the month. Might be a bit of a tight one, but we'll see if I can come. That would be cool. Tomorrow I'm going to do some street activism in Wales. So it's unlikely that anyone's in the area, but you never know. Hi India, Holistic Media. Lovely to see you. 29th, okay, because we're out of here on the 30th.
So you could still do it, because obviously you would be going there and back, and it's not, you're closest here than. So
yeah, we'll
maybe.
see. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I do want to try and do some activism here, Glastonbury, and Wales, as I said, over the next few weeks, and we'll see. We'll see where it goes from there. Yeah. What else was on the plate?
Have you looked at all? Sorry. All the messages.
Donald says he loves that video from Wales of the Alps visible from there. I think I've seen it as a photo. I don't know if I've seen the video. Maybe I have. I think that those sort of long-range things are going to continually erode people's, belief of is curvature and so on. So you guys talking about how heavy cargo ships are. Yeah, I don't know about cargo ships. Oh, you work for UPS? Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. You miss not having dogs. Yeah, we get a lot of dogs in our life at the moment. We love them, so that's cool. They want to hide that video. Yeah, well, I think we'll make. There'll be more of them. Hey, Tony Dixon, nice to see you. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. It does help to get this out. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Jaron Whitsett conversation debate, but the debate was meant to be on the globe, and it ended up being more like, well, how do you explain this on the flat Earth, or these things don't work on a flat Earth model. So, yeah.
Well, I think, you've said what you think, and again, you don't want to get pulled too much into these things that really are, that for me, they're, again, if you're feeling something about it, then maybe it's also an opportunity to look at what's there for you. On that point, I wouldn't be right if I didn't talk about the current astrology. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, Pluto, Saturn, and now Mercury. There might be a fifth one. Am I forgetting one? Anyway, Mercury went retrograde on Thursday, yesterday, and it's in Leo. So that's for, I think it's about just over 3 weeks. And Mercury represents communication, it represents thoughts, and it represents anything that's moving, so transportation as well. And they call Mercury the trickster because he wants to get your attention. So often things happen, i.e. that whenever there's a Mercury retrograde, they'll say, you know, make sure if you're traveling, you check all your details, and if you're doing any communication, make sure you double check, and if you're signing any contracts, maybe make sure you either delay it or whatever. So those are the sort of standard Mercury retrograde kind of things that people talk about. But really what Mercury retrograde is doing, and retrogrades in general are, they're the sort of slowing of the energy to bring you into sort of a review, so that the energy gets pulled in. It normally gets slightly magnified, and it gives you the chance to review, to reflect, to reset, to rebirth, anything with the RE. And so we've got really potent energy with that, and the Mercury in Leo is the heart, it's your radiance, and so it's wanting you to look at what's sort of needing to be maybe readjusted, or maybe there's something you want to communicate from your heart, your truth. So that's the kind of theme for that. And then of course we have the other retrogrades. I know that Pluto in retrograde today is square the moon in Taurus. And then I think it might also be square something else. And that is like, that's that all that dark, like gunky stuff that's coming up for the collective and us individually. And then we have Uranus in Gemini, which is, it's that all that heady thinking, fast moving, you know, lots of things going on. And so, you know, finding ways to really ground yourself will be important, because otherwise it will feel like we're in our heads all the time. But an astrologer also said the energy at the moment is this experience of being in flow of old and new. So we've got like dying, like all the gunk and all the dying going on, or the releasing or the purging of the old. And then there'll be the possibility, the new, the exciting, what could it be, but don't know yet. And the way she explained it is it's like the caterpillar and the butterfly. It's like the old is the caterpillar, and these ways no longer fit. And then we're in the chrysalis, we're in the cocoon, in the gunk and the goo. Whilst that part is dying, we know the butterfly is coming and we're really excited about it, but we're not there yet. And actually we don't even know what the butterfly is going to look like or what that's going to feel like. So it's like we're in this really middle ground, which is actually amazing, but it can feel like a lot, the sort of swing between the two. So it's being able to hold that. And so, you know, there might be these feelings of exhaustion, like fogginess, lack of clarity, or you might have some clarity now and again when you're in this sort of new possible part. But it's just being able to, when you're in the sort of dying off, what do you need to feel? Do you need to feel grief, sadness, anger? And then, you know, then there's, when you're in the new, is there an action you want to take? So it's that tension of the two, and that's not going to change at least until mid-2026. So lots of death and rebirth going on. And that can feel really uncomfortable sometimes, or really exhausting sometimes. It's like these retrogrades in a way are a great way for you to rest and replenish and reflect and, you know, and really take the time, slow down, you know, maybe just be still instead of try, do like we normally do.
Awesome.
That's the weather report.
Thanks for that.
I think we must be having a new moon next week. I don't know the dates yet.
Yeah, it can't be more than...
well, the sun should be
days
moving into Leo by the 20th or the 21st. It's normally around there, which is Sunday. So it can't be too far away.
Okay.
The new moon in Leo.
Okay. Well, that's that. I know there was tennis on this week. Last week, a game called tennis. You might have heard of it. Played in a place called Wimbledon. You might have heard that. I only heard about it because my family were watching the final. So I know that a Spanish guy called Sinner. Really, his surname is Sinner.
Isn't that interesting?
Conversing about this with Nathan, actually.
A bit like the guy was what was his name?
Novak's.
Yeah.
Novak's joke. So it was interesting. I mean, you know, it's just an incredible coincidence or whatever that now millions of young children around the world will be buying tennis shirts with his name on the back.
I don't believe anything anymore is coincidence. I believe everything is happening for a reason.
Yeah, Nathan had said something else about that as well. Let me see if I can pull it up quite quickly. Might take me a moment. Nathan is having a few little health issues, so I'm hoping that...
I think that if you are having health issues at the moment, it'll be part of this energy. You know, it's wanting us to see where we're not in alignment, and perhaps there are ways of, you know, being, or like we said earlier with German New Medicine, you know, is it pointing to something that's wanting us to address it? You know, Gabor Mate writes that book, The Body Says No. So, you know, eventually your body is trying to give you a message. Obviously, when we end up going to the doctors, they don't really see it that way, so they end up operating or medicating.
Right. Apparently there's a porn star called Johnny Sins. That there was Taurus. Moses blows a ram's horn to bring in the age of Aryans to the people worshipping the bull, Taurus.
Anyway, you obviously can't find it.
Yeah, well, it was that in Mesopotamian mythology, Sin is the moon god, also known as Nana in Sumerian. Sin lived in Mount Sinai. So anyway, that's Akbar was the name of a golden calf. Just some food for thought. What else was we going to throw out for the conversation today?
Well, this is not really a conversation. I wanted to put it to the people in the chat to find out if there is. Well, I think we've said this before, though. If there's, you know, is there something that they want us to talk about, or do they want to, you know, pose some questions, or just to kind of feel what would be the most helpful, or are you guys happy with just the banter and just coming together in this space? Just curious.
Just going to see if I can open that link that Hippie put up for that new world record of...
Hello everyone. I have another great video to share with you today, and it comes from the channel Nouvelle Géographie Planétaire. I'll have a link in the description. Nouvelle Géographie Planétaire has had some fantastic long-distance videos in the past. I shared one of his videos a couple of years ago, and I do highly recommend that you subscribe to his channel. After I shared last week's video on the potential record long distance video from Israel to Crete filmed by Shimshon, I received some messages letting me know that I forgot about Nouvel's video. Okay, I admit it, I sometimes make mistakes and miss things, but I'm very glad I re-examined Nouvel's video, because I do love this flat earth proof. The video segment I'm going to discuss is centered on this photograph taken by Andrew Bailey, and I'll call it the Bailey photo. And I don't know anything about Andrew other than he can take some awesome photos, and in this case, a world record photo. I will include a link to the Bailey photo so that you can download it yourself. The Bailey photo was taken from the highest mountain in Wales called Yrwithfa. It has an awesome little train that takes you to the top. I just love the views there. I don't know about you, but this definitely is my kind of thing. This is now officially on my bucket list. Yrwithfa has an elevation of 3,560 feet. Now, what makes the Bailey photo so amazing is that you can see the Alps that are over 700 miles away. Here is Yrwithfa, and here are the peaks. There are 8 peaks we're going to look at, starting from right to left, and please excuse my pronunciation. Jungfrau, at a distance of 701 miles. Grand Comba, 709 miles. Don du Midi, 686 miles. Mont Blanc, 701 miles. Point Percy, 685 miles. La Tournette, 683 miles. Meige, 729 miles. And Bar des Secrets, 735 miles. Looking at the Bailey photo zoomed in, of course the naysayers are going to claim that those are clouds in the distance. And admittedly, it can be difficult to differentiate between white clouds and snow-capped mountains. But those are not clouds, and that's what I'm going to prove. On the Bailey photo, here is where you can find the 8 peaks. The Bar des Secrets there on the right is 735 miles away. Absolutely amazing. It would simply take too much time to look at all 8 peaks, and so I encourage you to watch the whole video by Nouvel. He did a great job at lining those peaks up with the Bailey photo. For us, we're going to concentrate on only one path here, Yrwithfa to Mont Blanc. Mont Blanc, which means the White Mountain, is the highest mountain in the Alps. Here is Google Earth's elevation profile from Yrwithfa to Mont Blanc. Maybe you noticed that.
See, one of the things that I'm always saying to people is that when you look at the cross section of any continent or landmass or whatever, it's always like this. It's always got the kind of, where was that point? We seem to have lost that somehow. It's always got this, yeah, and it's a flat line with peaks and troughs and so on, but unless it's the Dead Sea or you're in the sea, it's not going to go below this line. Yeah, so easy.
In that there is no curvature for the elevation profile. But notice how there is little elevation in between our 2 points, which gives Yrwithfa at 3,560 feet a great vantage to see Mont Blanc at 15,774 feet. Here is where Mont Blanc is located in the Bailey photo. This is the same photo cropped. Compare this cropped photo of Mont Blanc with another picture of the same mountain from a distance. I don't think anyone can reasonably disagree. The Bailey photo certainly looks very close to the other actual pictures of Mont Blanc. It's very close. But if that were the only evidence, I'd probably not share this video, because it would be too debatable. For me, this is what ends the debate. It is the fact that all 8 of these peaks match up with the Bailey photo, and I encourage you to examine it yourself. But let's look at Mont Blanc more closely. This is the Google pathway to Mont Blanc from Yrwithfa. I think you can see it much better from this angle, and it absolutely matches the Bailey photo angle. It's a definite match. But all 8 of the peaks line up. Add on the fact that the mountain, it looks just like Mont Blanc, and so it's dispositive. Yeah, I think this ends the globe. According to the globe model, with an observation height of 3,565 feet, that's with an...
So, there you go. You've seen it. I had seen that video actually. That guy does good content. I think he's a doctor, or his wife is. He likes doing those kind of videos. He's done some of his own. My audio is low. You can hardly hear me. Or maybe I need to speak up a little bit. Muted? Hopefully not now.
Oh, maybe the audio of the video was muted.
Oh. Turn up the volume. Was that the volume of the video? Was that too low? I do apologize for that.
Well, they'll have to go watch it themselves.
Yeah, and the link is in the chat. So you can go and check that out for yourself. So the world is turning, and I feel like there's been a little bit of a. I know there's stuff all boiling and bubbling in some theatres. It's really hot, but I feel like we're in a little bit of a reprieve at the moment, a little lull, and then there's. I don't know whether they wait for the summer holidays to be done, or we've got that long, but there's things coming down the pipe. There's always things coming down the pipe, I suppose, but it's building towards something. The Middle East, Russia, BRICS, new currencies, and I know obviously we know that we're these spiritual beings on some kind of spiritual dream, but the things that are happening in the world are, for many of us very real, and they have a very real can have a very real impact on what we do going forward, or how things are going forward. So it's worth keeping an eye on it. Calm before the storm, says India. Yeah.
I tend to. Well, I want to add, because I think that we'll have to navigate things, but I think when we believe that everything is already working out for us, and we trust life, that the solutions or the desire to live from your truth and what's aligned with you, and especially if you're listening from a deeper place, just all becomes available to you. And actually we don't have to live life from the glass is half empty. It becomes, the glass is half full. That has to be, for me anyway, the way that I look at it. I'm really excited for the future.
Good. Sven says Mont Blanc is where all the so-called satellite dishes point to. It's the highest point in the whole of Europe. I hadn't heard that before. I mean, I would say that if a transmitter was sending a signal to my home dish, even though Mont Blanc is quite high, and is very high, and would be able to possibly see me, not if I was in a valley, of course. The signal strength would be extremely powerful. I would have thought, for me, we have, every now and again, you'll find these very big masts, like super big, and it'll be those masts that are talking to other tall masts. And then when it gets to another tall mast, it'll then go down to a smaller mast, which is a sort of local area grid. I remember when we were in Spain, we were in a valley one time where the satellite dish was pointing. I did a video of it. It's on the old channel, of course, locked behind the World Health Organization diktat. But it's literally pointing almost perpendicular, as horizontal with the ground, because on the other side of the valley is a satellite dish that's serving. A tower, a small tower that's serving this valley. And so all the dishes there were all pointing just towards that. They weren't pointing outside of that valley. They were just to a wall of on the other side of the valley where there were two towers. And then when I look at houses around and about, generally it's just pointing to some kind of local water tower or some high point. That's my take on that. That's my thoughts.
Just while you're talking about mast towers or masts, we were talking the other day about, because I'm really researching mast cell activation syndrome. I think it's really fascinating situation happening in people's bodies, and particularly with those people who may have had the vaccination. And we were just talking about how people can be particularly sensitive to EMF, and EMF can cause mast cell activation syndrome. And then we were like, well, that's so interesting that it's mast cell activation. Your mast cells are those cells in your body that will be the sort of be activated to fight in your body when there's a problem, when there's a situation that you need to survive. Obviously, sometimes that can be triggered and be activated and make you very sick, and it doesn't need to be. But that EMFs or these towers are called masts. Sorry, that was just.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, we were kind of, because many people said that turning on the 6G or the 5G or whatever was going to cause, and maybe did cause, various things to happen health-wise, and they are masts, and they're affecting people's cells.
From the cell phone.
Yeah. It's not known as a cell phone in the UK, but in America it is. In South Africa it's called a cell phone. So Jolly Man used to go snowboarding in Chamonix. You can see Mont Blanc from hundreds of miles away, either side of it. When James Bond jumped off, looked like a minuscule thing in the distance below. And then he goes on to say that angular sizes only change on the Earth's reference frame. Have you guys ever thought about? I mean, I know when the first globe proof out of the bag is normally the ships going over the horizon, with the hull disappearing first. And of course, when you're right on the beach, there are little obstructions that are barely noticeable in between you and the 3 miles, swells and things that certainly can have a bearing on your low point observation. But there's more to it than that, because eventually, yes, an entire ship does appear to drop down. And this effect can be observed by looking at train lines. The effect that I'm going to describe, if you stand in the middle of the train lines, then they're going to converge like this. But if you stand on this side of the train line, then you'll notice that it kind of converges like that, where there's a preference to convergence on the side that you're closest to. So when you're standing on the ground, then the preference for convergence is going to be in the lower region, because you can barely notice, you've got so much sky above you, you can barely notice the compression that's occurring there. However, if you went up to 500 meters or so, then that compression is far less obvious. So you would see, basically you wouldn't be able to make the comment that, oh, I see the hull of the ship going under first, because the whole ship would just kind of disappear into the atmosphere, at one point, when it was no longer visible. But this idea that it's gone like bottom up over something wouldn't really be held, because you've lost that kind of imbalance. As I say, you can do it I've done it with train lines, make sure there's no trains coming, and they, need to be straight. Anyway, I thought I'd share that little thought tidbit. Another visual compression, yes. Hi Liz, Iron Maiden. Nice you could make it. Haven't seen Cami today. Hope she's well. I did see a picture of her on Facial Book. Sea Lightning says, from Canada, my satellite dish points to the USA. I wonder if they have tall satellite towers in Air Force bases as they are no-fly zone. That's obviously a possibility, but let me tell you, when I traveled in America in 1988, I stayed for a week or two with a lovely young lady. Well, she was my age at the time, so she's not that young anymore, but I stayed at her parents' place for about a week or so, and I was so impressed with the old man's gear because he had in his garden a really large, I mean larger than my arm span, big black dish, satellite dish. And this is 1988, so early days, but he said at times he has to recalibrate it. It's done automatically, or it'll move itself into a new position with a new satellite. Wasn't questioning those things back then. But I've obviously, in the years of being, into flat Earth research, I've thought about that example that I had, that experience that I had, and now I'm certain that it's geostationary balloons that are either held in place by, some fan system that they have, or they simply launch them, float them across with the jet stream, and they come back down at some pre-arranged point. So that's what I think is, I think that what satellite dishes are often looking at is a located beacon that is floating, and that they'll put a new one up every 3 months, whatever. And that's what the money that these companies spend, Verizon and all of that they spend on so-called satellite technology. It'll be paying for new, they'll make 100 of the satellite, and then they'll just launch one up every month to keep the service running. And that's what these things are. That's how I believe that they are. And then I think it's Dave Weiss's theory of planes carrying receivers and transmitters. Brilliant idea. It makes absolute sense. There's so much air traffic in a place like North America and Europe, but there that you could you could point your satellite dish there, and every 5 minutes a plane is coming past carrying a transmitter. Anyway, that's by the by. Anyway, I think it's almost time to say goodbye. Yeah. Did you want to say anything?
No, I don't think so.
No? They have to make it look like satellites are in the play. The narratives have, Happy birthday for Cami yesterday. Happy birthday, Cami.
Cancerian.
Cool. Well, I'm in the street tomorrow, and if you want to buy me a coffee in support of that, feel free to do so.
He won't be doing the 6-hour stint.
It won't be 6 hours.
No.
I'm hoping to see some Flat Earth friends in the afternoon. And then and others in the days ahead, and Glastonbury. I'm going to definitely spice up a little Glasgow time. So we'll say until we gather again.
Take care. Be
Yeah.
kind to yourself.
Yeah, be kind to yourself, and don't let the mad world get under your skin.
Yeah.